Welcome to SAT TV News. I am Alicia George. In our top stories, over 300 individuals received certificates in skills training and academic competence programs. Local historian cites advantage from proposed amendment to Dominica's National Parks and Protected Areas Act. From the region, Haiti's Prime Minister awarded Innovative Leader of the Year. And internationally, US began airstrikes on Islamic State targets. In sports, Big Edge launches youth tennis tournament. Details of these and other stories will follow. Welcome back. 345 individuals were awarded certificates on Monday after completing skills and academic programs, including the Caribbean Certificate of Secondary Level Competence (CCSLC) program. The programs were organized by the Adult Education Division, Alliance Française, Petro-Caribe, and the Ross University School of Medicine, among other learning institutions. The Adult Education Certificate ceremony falls in line with Adult Education Month, observed in September, under the theme Lifelong Learning, a Pathway to Health and Wellness. Some of the participants admitted to having initial challenges, particularly with the CCSLC program, but ultimately agreed that it was worth the challenge.
It was a great challenge at first, but in the process became one of my greatest achievements. There's a saying which goes like this: there is no ground without a cross. For all of us here today, we carried our crosses up to this point, but we did not stop here. As long as God permits life, we have to keep on going. Slowly but surely, we will get to our destination.
Courses offered included French language, skills training and parenting, literacy, floral arrangements, CSEC and CCSLC training programs, and entrepreneurial skills training. Ross University participant Ernie Hilton obtained a 1 in mathematics and a 1 in English for the CSEC program, while participants from the Ross University who sat the CCSLC program in mathematics and English were all successful. Speaking at the certificate ceremony, Francisca Joseph, Adult Education Field Supervisor, said the division is mandated to develop Dominica's human resource and has continued to do so by providing an enabling environment for success.
For the first time this year, the Adult Education Division registered 10 participants as part of the CXC Second Chance program. The division has been recognized by CXC as a second chance institution, and all of these persons were successful.
Joseph dispelled the notion that the Adult Education Division only provides training for persons who are unable to read and write, and issued a challenge to other employers to invest in their workers.
Encourage your employees to upgrade their skills and abilities by enrolling in an adult education program. And when they do enroll, facilitate their attendance at these classes by granting them time off to do so.
The overall achievement for the Adult Education Division through its academic programs is 11 1s, 21 2s, and 37 3s in this year's regional examination. Some classes were held only once per week. There was 100% pass rate in the CCSLC program in the Roseau area. 2 in-house programs were facilitated by the Ross University School of Medicine and Petro-Caribe Dominica. Local historian and anthropologist Dr. Lennox Honeychurch is suggesting that any proposed amendment to the National Parks and Protected Areas Act of Dominica be carefully assessed in the best interest of the island's natural environment. He made the statement amidst plans by the ruling Dominica Labour Party government, DLP, to amend the legislation at the next sitting of the House of Parliament, where the minister responsible for agriculture and forestry will have the power to reduce the boundaries of these areas. The Waitukubuli Ecological Foundation, WEF, led by President Bernard Wilshire, regard this as a step backwards. However, Dr. Honeychurch said this amendment can be used to develop the Cabrit Swamp for tourism purposes, as being part of the Cabrit National Park means it cannot be developed.
There are aspects, for instance, related to certain developments. Let us take, for instance, the Cabrit Swamp, which for years various governments have been hoping or trying to persuade investors to develop as a marina. But the fact of the matter is that the entire area that has been continually promoted is within the national park. So here is an example of a decision being taken, perhaps in the future, that aspect, that is the swamp at the Cabrits, would be taken out of the Cabrits National Park and therefore would be available for development purposes in terms of marina development. So that is an example, but one would hope that decisions of this nature would be very carefully taken in respect of the environment and also the attractions that we have in Dominica, where the basis of our tourism is nature island and environmental and conservation tourism.
Dr. Honeychurch was a member of the House of Assembly when the original National Parks and Protected Acts was passed in July of 1975. The act established the Tuapito National Park, the Cabritz National Park, and the Munda-Blute National Park.
So I'm fully aware of that aspect of the legislation, which actually had within it a clause that determined that at any time the president, acting on the advice, of course, of the minister, could extend and enlarge the park. For instance, or create new parks, which was done subsequently, as I mentioned, in case of the Cabritz and of Mont Diablotin. What the act did not contain is the powers to withdraw or remove areas that had been designated as national park. And this is the piece of legislation, the amendment that is being dealt with.
He said this amendment can be very controversial, as the original act stated, once a place was designated as a national park, it could not be altered for any purpose.
What this legislation is doing now is essentially saying that if there are areas which it is felt are needed and need to be withdrawn from the park, that legislation would allow them to do so. So where it is, whether it is Cabritz, whether it is Tuapito, whether it is Diablotin, these are issues that would have to be very carefully assessed. We have forest reserve, for instance. Now, forest reserve land falls into a completely different category. There are government lands in the interior of Dominica that can be used for other purposes.
What started out as a mere rumor turned out to be factual, as the Dominica Festivals Committee, DFC, on Tuesday announced the addition of the popular Jamaican artist Mavado to the lineup of the 18th edition of the World Creole Music Festival. DFC Events Assistant Marva Williams said Mavado is the final artist to complete the lineup of this year's festival.
This gentleman, he is described as having the ability to voice his experiences and capture the imagination of Jamaican youth every step of the way. He caught the ears and eyes of a new and broader fan base, and he knows exactly how to make his emotional appeal universal. And when we place artists on the lineup, we put artists, that appeal to different crowds. That's what creates our fan base in terms of patrons. And we are pleased this morning to announce that Mavado, our Jamaican dancehall artist, is officially part of the lineup for the World Creole Music Festival.
According to Williams, Mavado will perform on Sunday, October 26th, the final night of the festival.
We expect that he will, of course, meet the younger crowd in Dominica and create that atmosphere and that static like he has in the Jamaican world. Mavado is popularly known. He has performed around the Caribbean. He has performed in the United States. It's not the first time he's coming to Dominica. I remember vaguely he was in Dominica in 2008, where he performed a number of hits. We are pleased to say that Mavado, together with the festival, who has grown in maturity, has also grown, in terms of his maturity and his appeal to the general public and his listening patrons.
David Constantine Brooks, better known as Mavado, began singing as a young boy in church and later went on to work with his idol Bounty Killer at the age of 15, learning the music industry. Bounty Killer introduced Mavado to his manager, dancehall music business legend Julian Jones Griffith, who would go on to manage Mavado's career.
Thank you, for everything. How you give me the health and the strength and make me sing. When the enemies are free and I burn bad fire, me take everything to giant prayer. Long time them no like me, the things them transpire. But I is my everything, I make me higher.
His debut single, Real McCoy, on the anger management rhythm in 2004, provided him instant success, further establishing himself with the follow-up record, Where Dem A Do, on the Red Bull and Guinness rhythm that had the distinction of hitting Billboard.
There's a lot of growth in my music. You know, like when I just came out, I sing all about the street and all about the gangsters. And, you know what I'm saying? Now you can find my brother singing about a Delilah or singing about One by One. My impact on the game, the dancehall game, is very great, and I think I want to take it to the highest level.
Throughout his rise to worldwide prominence, the now signed We The Best music group Cash Money Records recording artist also released other popular songs including On The Rock, Settle Down, I'm So Special, Delilah, Give It All To Me, Caribbean Girls, Amazing Grace, and Top Shatter Na Miss. The 18th Annual World Creole Music Festival will be held on October 24th to the 26th at the Winter Park Sports Stadium in Brussels. The Dominica Solid Waste Management Corporation, DSWMC, launched its month of activities with a panel discussion on Tuesday under the theme Too Good to Waste, Reduce, Reuse, Recycle. The DSWMC engaged a number of secondary school students across the island when they presented the list of activities at the Dominica Public Service Union building.
Tomorrow, with our grand exhibition, we're asking the populace to come and see what our students can do and also the staff of the students can do with recyclable material, and that will promote our field Too Good to Waste. Many times people look at waste as garbage, but Dominica Solid Waste look at it as a resource.
The exhibition will continue until Friday. Meanwhile, on Thursday, the corporation will also host a tour to the landfill, followed by a fundraising activity on Friday and hike to the Bury Lake on Saturday. The week of activities officially opened on Monday, September 22nd, and will conclude on the 27th. When we return, Dominican educators make advances in foreign language. Welcome back. Several teachers from 12 schools across the island on Friday completed a one-week training course in Spanish. The Dominica Argentina A2 project targets primary and secondary school teachers and equips them with the skills to teach Spanish as a second language at the various institutions. Nicholas Goldberg, Senior Education Officer, said this project was formulated after liaising with the Argentinian counterparts.
The resulting project that was agreed by Argentina and Dominica had three components. The first would involve officials of the Ministry of Education traveling to Argentina to liaise with their Argentinian colleagues to work out the details of the project. The second, which occurs now, is actually the training of some 30 Dominican teachers in the methodology of teaching Spanish as a second language to Dominican students.
The third part of the training involves teachers traveling to Argentina for the 1 week of intense training in the Spanish language. Goldberg said this initiative should result in improvement in the number of student successes in the Spanish language.
All this, therefore, should realize an improvement in the number of students who have facility with the Spanish language and increased numbers of students writing and obtaining CSEX in Spanish.
Meanwhile, Estela Lopez Favre, director of the Center for Spanish as a Foreign Language, SILI, said she was overwhelmed by the response from the teachers during the training.
Our students, your teachers, right? Our students, your teachers. Well, we got the best results we could ever expect in 1 week. Having imagined a group of students, we expected good students, but believe me, we got much more than we had expected. Our results were much more promising than what we had expected before.
Lopez Favre is hoping that this intercultural approach to language teaching continues between Dominica and Argentina.